If you have a pair of pants made of polyester, it's plastic. And so now we have plastic right up against our skin that like sheds little microplastic particles mixed in with warm sweat in between our skin, and it dissolves in our skin, right? Because your skin absorbs everything that it touches.
How many ultrasounds did you get?
0. Being pregnant is not a sickness. It is not an illness. It is a totally normal thing. If you're normal and healthy, you can have a perfectly fine pregnancy and birth.
Welcome to Tan Land, home to the really tan man, olive oil queen, and really tan olive oil baby. Not their real names, of course, but their internet personas as the founders of one of the newest and biggest names in the seed oil-free snack space, MASA Chips. Steven and Mia Rofrano are the creators of MASA Chips, clean food activists, and just a young mom and dad helping you to live your healthiest and most aesthetic life. On this episode, of course, we're gonna talk about seed oils, but also why the fabric of your clothing matters for your health, how to have a baby without going to the doctor or having a single ultrasound, why constant ultrasounds may not be the best idea during pregnancy, also concern with underwire bras, running a healthy life that everyone in the family is on board with, and much, much more. They're the most fascinating crunchy couple in America, and you can watch this episode on the Culture Apothecary Spotify or Real Alex Clark on YouTube. Please do me one huge favor though. Pause the show right now, 5 seconds. Go to the main profile of the podcast on Spotify or Apple and leave a 5-star review for us. This is the best way that you can support us so other people and potential guests discover us and then we look legit, right? Okay. Please welcome the founders of MASA Chips, Really Tan Man, and the Olive Oil Queen to Culture Apothecary. You're in the clean snack industry, seed oil free specifically, and 2 seed oil free snacks, or at least almost seed oil free as far as Simple Mill goes, just sold to other big food names. So in your opinion, do you think consumers should be worried about these sales?
I mean, this happens all the time. So it's not just these 2, although it's recent news. There's Primal Kitchen is owned by Kraft. Hugh Chocolate is owned by Mondelez. Epic is owned by General Mills. The list goes on and on and on. The way this works, theoretically, is that a big company wants to buy a small company. They know that it's successful, and they know that if they owned it, they could put it on all their trucks, get into all their stores, and it would blow it up. They want to buy the thing that's working, and they don't really want to change it, at least at first. And I know for a fact, at least off the record, that certain of these acquisitions have like parts of the contract where they're not allowed to change the ingredients, but that doesn't last forever, right? And then also it's like you don't change the ingredient label, but what about the sourcing? What if you find a different farmer for this one ingredient or another farmer for the other ingredient? Over time, I could imagine the ingredient quality suffers, but I don't think anyone's going to change it quickly because they have no economic incentive to. The customers want that product, and so they're going to keep it that way.
Yeah, like if you want to buy Hugh Chocolate in the airport, like these companies are able to do that better than
it's
smaller
very
companies.
helpful, right? Like before that happened, like Epic, I can get Epic bars in the airport.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that before it was bought.
Speaking of airports and snacks, you guys have some kind of cool situation in Nashville. There's a great airport snack stand that has all of these, like they have tinned fish and amazing snacks. They have tons of MASA chips and stuff in there. Yeah. And I'm like, why isn't this in every airport?
Yeah, we've heard about this, but we haven't seen it
I've
yet.
not been to Nashville yet, but when I do, it's like, it sounds like it's Air One in an airport.
It is.
Yeah.
It's Air One in an airport. And
yeah.
Every time I fly into Nashville, I get excited. I'm like, oh yes, I can stop
You
at
can
this
actually
place.
eat here.
Yeah, it's great. So we need that. That's a huge problem, I feel like, is options at airports.
Right,
Yeah.
and so like, that's kind of the thing. Distribution is like, okay, it's one thing to make a product, but it's another thing to get it everywhere. And so every random gas station in the middle of nowhere, or every convenience store, or every grocery store, right? Like the big companies kind of own that little sector. And so it's relatively difficult for a small company to then go do that. And so one of the benefits of these big companies buying a small thing is like, you don't have to be in the Nashville airport to get something good because they'll just put it everywhere. At the same time, though, instead of paying the person who created this natural thing, who's like probably family or whatever, you're paying General Mills or, the shareholders of BlackRock. That's who you're paying. Think about where your dollar goes when you're buying something from this giant company.
What would it take for MASA Chips to sell?
Probably an offer that no one would give us.
So no plans in the immediate future?
No plans. I don't want to comment on any specific companies like production setup, but like we make every single product we have from scratch by hand, like in our factory. And we've done that since day one. And we almost had to, because the way food production is done in the country is like there's a handful of giant factories that just pump out billions and billions and billions of bags of whatever, and then the companies just slap their label on it. And so, there's maybe 1,000 tortilla chip brands in the country, but probably like less than 100 tortilla chip factories. And so none of those factories would make our product the way that we wanted, with the quality ingredients, with the tallow and all that stuff. And so we had to do it ourselves from day one. We always have.
Yeah.
And so selling that company doesn't really make that much sense, because we have all our own infrastructure. It's not just selling a brand, and selling like a trademark. It would be the entire infrastructure that we've already built, which why would we sell it to Coke? They don't need it.
Yeah.
It's not like they'd have another use for it,
Do you trust Steak and Shake, who recently said we're going to go to 100% beef tallow for our fries?
I would have to look more into it, honestly. I've heard some rumors. I don't know what's true or what's not, that the tallow they've acquired has a bunch of stuff in it.
Preservatives.
Yeah.
It's probably better than seed oils. Like, I would eat there over Chick-fil-A or something.
100%.
But my question is what I've seen is they're saying their fries are seed oil free. Think about all the other things in the restaurant. I would have to see we're committed as a restaurant chain to being 100% seed oil free, or at least, the food, the burgers, everything else is, think about the buns and everything. All that is going to have seed oils.
Well, this is one of the big issues about diet culture, which is like X free, like, no peanuts, no gluten, no this. It's like, well, what is in it? It could be bad,
Yeah.
right? Like keto is no sugar, but like seed oils are keto, right? Or like non-calorie, like stevia and Splenda, and all sorts of non-calorie sweeteners, they're keto because they have no like carbohydrate calories.
So somebody could think that they're eating healthy because they're keto, and there's a lot of stuff sneaking in.
Yeah,
Right.
Like vegan is like seed oils are vegan, right? Pesticides are probably vegan, right?
Oh, well, the vegan food is the nastiest processed food out there.
Right.
And it's all pretending to be real food, like burgers and fries and milk and whatever. So
Yeah. And so you can't define your thing based off of what it's not, is what I'm trying to say. So like, oh, Steak and Shake has no seed oils anymore. Okay, great. But what about this? What about that? What about that? And that's why food is so complicated. I think it's one of the reasons why it's so difficult for people, is because there's so many damn things to keep track of.
yeah.
Oh, this doesn't have red 40, but does it have red 4? Like, oh, it doesn't have Splenda, but does it have stevia or xylitol? Or this doesn't have gluten, but does it have this other thing that I can't eat?
Why do you guys not like stevia?
So I was pregnant like a year ago, and I was kind of averse to stevia because I knew it was fake. And I was like, I'm not scared of sugar. I'm going to eat sugar. But I had an Element packet. No hate on Element, but I had an Element packet that had stevia in it, and I was in the toilet the next day, like throwing up. Like, pregnancy just did not like it. And then I did some research, and I found out stevia was used like in the jungle for natural birth control. So my body literally was like, we have a life growing in here. We're going to reject this. And yeah, I didn't eat for like 2 days, and then I was fine.
So you stayed away from it?
I stayed away from it after that, for
No,
sure.
but isn't there something to be said for there's right and wrong ways to source it, is what I've heard?
That's true about everything.
Okay.
But like at the base level, the molecule is the molecule. Another example of this is like vitamin E, right? Vitamin E is good. And you get vitamin E from all sorts of places. Once and if it's distilled and properly filtered and whatever in a chemistry process, once the molecule's there, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It's the molecule, right? Table salt. Sodium chloride is salt, whether it comes from a rock or the ocean or whatever. If it's properly purified, it's going to be the same thing. So I don't think that's really the issue. And we do know that the natives somewhere in South America
Yeah.
like use it as natural contraceptive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not saying no one should ever eat stevia ever, but
And some people do fine with it. Like there's tons of people
Yeah.
that took Element packets during their pregnancy and they were fine. But
And that's why there's options. I mean, there's, some people, you could make something with monk fruit or whatever. There's other things if you have an aversion like you seem to, definitely. And was that really one of the only times that you got mega sick with your pregnancy?
that, and I accidentally ate a seed oil chicken wing, and I was up all night. My friend was like really worried about me. She was like, is she going into labor? Is she going to die? It was really, really bad, which is crazy because I had raw milk, oysters, liver, raw liver, and I felt great after all of those throughout my whole pregnancy. And I had the one seed oil chicken wing, and I was just like, and I was terrible the whole night.
Well, you know who is now officially the first national restaurant chain to be completely 100% seed oil free is True Food.
Oh, yeah.
So my question is, do you think that we're going to just start seeing a surgence of all of these restaurants and all these people saying we're seed oil free, snack brands? Like, is this the next thing?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I think you can already start to see it, like Burger and Butcher in New Jersey. They do grass-fed tallow fries.
Sourdough, organic, grass-fed, tallow-fried donuts.
Oh my gosh.
It's
so good.
it's
Wow.
nuts.
I
Yeah.
have to go there.
Absolutely.
Team, write down. I'm taking a trip to New Jersey.
Yeah. Obviously, seed oils aren't everything, right? Which we talked about with Steak and Shake. Like, you can avoid seed oils and still have a bunch of other bad stuff. That's true about basically all things that you avoid. However, seed oils are pretty key because they make up about 25% of the average American's calories, which is the single largest source of calories, right? Like people eat a lot of meat, but it's from all over. The seed oil block in that little pie chart of your calories is the biggest, which is insane. And so if we're thinking about cutting stuff out, it makes sense to start cutting stuff out that's most impactful. And so, yeah, red 40 is bad. I'm not advocating for this, but like what you eat 5 milligrams of red 40 in a year on the standard American diet, but you ate dozens of pounds of seed oils.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Over the same time.
So you're saying that is why we should care about this, is because we're consuming an ungodly amount of it.
Yeah, it's like the low-hanging fruit. Like pick the easiest battles to win first. And then we can talk about the citric acid in your kombucha or something.
So one of the pieces of advice that I always give people who are new to starting to eat healthier and changing their diet is when they're feeling overwhelmed about all these different ingredients that they're learning about on the show. I'm like, you know what's helpful? Pick one thing, focus on that, eliminate that from your pantry. When you feel confident, like I know how to spot that on an ingredient label, I'm going to move on to this thing. So in your opinion, would you guys say it should be seed oils that you start with?
Definitely.
100%. So if you're going to cut out one thing, it should be seed oils. And not only because seed oils are bad and we consume so much of them, more than any other ingredient, it's also because the foods that contain seed oils usually also contain a ton of other stuff.
Like fried foods have flour with glyphosate and other pesticides, and
like artificial
mayo
flavors,
sauces that have seed oils and coloring.
The preservatives, the pesticides, all the other low quality ingredients. So if you cut out the seed oils, you cut out all that other stuff too. And some people confuse that in saying that like, oh, the reason why the seed oil free thing works is because you're actually avoiding all this other stuff. Like, no, it works because you're avoiding seed oils, and a benefit is you get to avoid all this other stuff. But it's both, right? Like all of these things are not stuff that we're naturally supposed to be eating. Most of the companies that are intentionally not using seed oils will also not include most of the other terrible things that are common in all the rest of food. So it's not gonna be perfect, but generally it's a pretty good proxy for getting quality stuff.
And I also feel like seed oil free, especially going out to restaurants, like pretty much any restaurant can cook in butter. Like it's simple. You get to keep all the good stuff, and it's not that hard to avoid. I feel like a lot of things like gluten-free or dairy-free are really, really hard to avoid, and then that's when you get the fake ingredients.
And that's because these, like gluten and dairy, are foundational cornerstones of, I guess you could call it the European diet. They are in everything, and they have been for many thousands of years, and most of which throughout that period, people were healthy. And so if you avoid them, you're going to naturally introduce fake things to kind of mimic the experience. But on the contrary, seed oils are the fake thing. The butter was the real thing. The tallow was the real thing. The olive oil was the real thing. And the seed oils were already the fake thing. So we're getting rid of seed oils is getting rid of the fake counterfeit thing and going back to the real thing, which was the butter, the tallow.
You guys have built this entire seed oil-free chip empire. When you first met each other and were dating, did you connect because you were both so health conscious?
We definitely connected because we were both health conscious. Actually, we met on Hinge. In my bio, I had something about like, I believe in real health, and he thought I was like some vegan. He was like, what do you mean by that?
You were curious.
My second Hinge message to her was like, what does real food mean to you or something?
And I was like, oh, like grass-fed meats and blah, blah. And he was like, okay.
Love that.
Because I thought she was vegan. Because every girl at her age at that time was like vegan.
I remember the first couple times we went on a date, we actually cooked together. The only like processed food he had was tortilla chips. Like, so we would cook, have our butter and carrots and meat and eggs and whatever the heck we cooked. He brought his own cast iron pan. But in the corner there was like tortilla chips, and that was the only processed thing he had. And so we kind of went our separate ways a little bit. We stayed in touch. We were just friends. And
by the way, we met before either of us had a health Instagram. Or
this was before Instagram.
Oh, wow.
This was like in 2020. So it was like really, we were both personally interested in health, but had no professional or any other.
You weren't really tan man yet or olive oil queen.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And then he started Instagram, and then I was like, that looks fun. Like, I want to start an Instagram. And so I was like asking him for tips, and then we connected after that. We started dating, and he was like sending me design options for MASA. He was like, I'm doing this little side project. And I'm like, okay, cool.
So you were really involved in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. So someone was joking because when not everyone knows what MASA means. And if you don't know, it's like a Spanish word that refers to the tortilla dough after it's been nixtamalized. But her mom, or was it your mom?
My mom's mom. We call her Zena. She doesn't like the word grandma.
She thought, because we just started dating, and she was like, this MASA thing. She thought it was Mia and Steven always.
Yeah.
Cute.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
If you guys had kind of started to be radicalized on this before you met each other, then what were your own perspective turning points on food in America?
I grew up on a standard American diet. So I had a lot of health issues as a teenager. I went to a gastroenterologist for several years, and I was starting, like, they would just prescribe me a new pill every couple of weeks, and I started to pick up on it. I was like, this isn't working. They had me see a dietitian once, and she was like, everything you're eating is fine, because I started doing all my own research, and I was like the only one in my family eating healthy, and so I had to grocery shop for myself. I cooked for myself, and then I went off to college and did all of that, and then I had to, like, try to influence my friends to eat healthy and whatever. But yeah, I realized pretty young that the food in America is not good.
Yeah, she was a little younger than me. For me, it was the freshman year of college. So I grew up, my grandparents are Sicilian, and so food snobbery runs deep in my bloodline, if you will. And so we always ate well, but not necessarily by the modern standard of organic this and whatever, but we would never have super processed meat, for example, or we'd have pasta from Italy. And the problem was, when I was a baby, my mom, as she was weaning me, started feeding me all sorts of baby food and realized I stopped growing. And so for about like 3 months, there was no weight gain at a period when, a 6-month-old baby should be gaining weight. And so she, way ahead of her time, did an elimination diet to figure out like what was causing the problem. And so she figured out that it was the gluten in the baby food that was causing me to stop growing. So from very early on, I was largely raised gluten-free.
Oh,
And when I was a
wow.
kid, I hated this, right? Because bread tastes good.
Of course.
Yeah. And all the other kids could eat all their food, and I had to eat my whatever rice cake or something. And so I never really understood it, because, of course, kids don't understand this kind of thing. They just want to eat what tastes good. After freshman year of college, I was doing some study abroad thing in Europe, and I had to cook for myself because they don't have dormitories with dining halls over there. My stipend for the internship was too low for me to go and buy, like, restaurant food or something. So I had to cook for the first time in my life. And that's when I started putting meals together and realizing that I felt a certain way if I ate a certain thing. Because I had never seen that before, right? Everything I'd ever eaten was handed to me. So I didn't know really what was in it. But by cooking for the first time, I could trace every ingredient through the process and then feel it afterward and then figure out, oh, I had this reaction.
Geez, maybe that's the solution in American colleges, because, that's something I get from my audience that's currently in school and living on campus. That's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, the
Right.
only options I have to eat are the fast food restaurants in their food court area or whatever.
Yeah.
There is nothing.
Yeah.
And so, but I wonder if they made it so that they had a little kitchen area and these kids could start cooking and learning how to cook and understanding where their food comes from. Man, I bet that would open a lot of eyes.
Right.
That's what happened to me. Like, in college, they forced me to get a meal plan the first year. I had to go to them and ask them to cook separately for me. I was just like plain chicken, plain vegetables, and then I would douse olive oil on it. That was when I really got into olive oil.
Literally what
I
did
would
in
go through
college, too.
so much olive oil. It's crazy. And then the second year, they told me I had to have a meal plan. And I was like, I want to cook for myself. Like, we have kitchens, like a community kitchen in the store. I'm like, why can't I use it? I had to fight them. I sent all my paperwork about like my IBS, my whatever I had, GERD, and all of this stuff, like 28 pages of paperwork from my doctors. And then they told me no to apply for like a letter of grief or something. And then I did that. And then they were like, okay, fine, but only for 1 semester we'll allow you to do this.
What?
It was insane. Yeah.
So it's because Big Food has a contract with these schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want you eating this stuff. I mean, that is a huge fast food business for them as these college students on campus. Like, if every kid starts cooking for themselves, they're going to lose money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just evil. Armpit check! Conventional deodorants are packed with harmful chemicals like aluminum, parabens, and artificial fragrances. Did you know that aluminum can be absorbed into your skin, potentially disrupting your hormones and increasing your risk for health issues? Parabens are another scary culprit linked to hormone disruption. And those artificial fragrances, they can cause skin irritation and allergies. It's time to take control of what goes on your skin and switch to something safer and effective. That's where Zebra deodorant comes in. It's paraben-free, aluminum-free, and fragrance-free, using only the purest ingredients that actually work, even in the heat. And I live in Arizona, girl. I would not lie to you. Unlike most natural deodorants that leave you feeling sticky and uncomfortable, Zebra goes on clear, smooth, and dries without leaving embarrassing white streaks. And if you've ever had issues with baking soda, Zebra has a baking soda-free formula for those with more sensitive skin. So whether you've got a light day or you're getting a workout in or just living in Arizona, Zebra keeps you fresh without the harsh chemicals. And guess what else? Zebra just launched a clear lip gloss that's completely clean, glossy, hydrating, and of course, gorgeous. No compromise, just all the shine. I've got it on right now. Ready to make the switch to a cleaner, safer deodorant? This is for men and women, total unisex scents or unscented. Head to yayzebra.com, use code ALEX for 10% off your first order. That's yayzebra.com, code ALEX for 10% off today. Lately, I have been having more and more guests on Culture Apothecary rave about the benefits of red light therapy. Totally unprompted, by the way. They're just bringing it up. Whether it's for improving skin health, reducing inflammation, or enhancing muscle recovery, it's clear red light therapy is the future of wellness. Also, we just had a guest talk about it for heart health. I'm personally a huge fan of using Joovv red light therapy devices. I have been exclusively using Joovv for years, and I've noticed incredible changes in my skin and energy levels. It's become a non-negotiable part of my mornings, especially when I'm recovering from Pilates or ice skating lessons. Okay, so why Joovv compared to other brands? Simple. Joovv uses clinically proven wavelengths of red and near-infrared light, which are scientifically shown to reduce pain, increase circulation, and boost collagen production, helping with everything from skin rejuvenation to muscle recovery. Their devices are FDA approved, medical grade, and independently tested for safety. Plus, they offer a variety of devices. So no matter what your space or budget is, you can experience the benefits of high-quality red light therapy. And the best part, each session only takes about 10 minutes and the results are powerful. If you're ready to experience the power of red light therapy, head to joovv.com/Alex for an exclusive discount on your first order. It automatically shows up there on that link. It's joovv.com/Alex, JOOVV.com/Alex. Check it out today and start enhancing your health from the inside out. True or false? Seed oils cause brain damage, make you fat, and contribute to cellulite.
I knew the cellulite one was coming.
True?
True. Yeah.
Tell me about cellulite and seed oils.
One of the things I learned about cellulite, and this is not like crazy news to anyone, is that cellulite is more concentrated in places where there's more estrogen. So that means women get cellulite more than men. Everyone knows this. But also, if women will self-reflect on where they have observed cellulite, it's in the tissues that are most feminine. The more estrogen is in those tissues. That's like where the fat storage is and all that stuff. And so you have this crazy phenomenon where seed oils are estrogenic. They have an estrogenic effect in the body. The rapey people will talk your ears off about this. And so nowadays you'll see like really fat guys, like they'll start to get cellulite on their thighs and butts because like they will even be overwhelmed with estrogen in those tissues, even though they're a man.
Soy boy syndrome.
Soy boy syndrome. Yeah. So you have that one piece of information, the seed oil estrogen connection. And then you have the other thing, which is that most people's body fat is made up of seed oils because your body fat is made up of the fat that you personally eat. And so
because it's making up 25% of our calories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so over time, there's some study, I'm sure people can Google this easily, that like calculated the amount of polyunsaturated fats, which is the type of fat in seed oils that we care about. They calculated the amount of that fat in people's body tissue over time. And in like the 1900s, it was, I don't know, 1 or 2%. And now it's approaching 20, 25% in the average person. Yeah, terrifying. And so seed oils also stay in the body for a very long time. We know this, that the half-life is like 2 years or something. So it'll take like 2 years for 50% of the seed oils to like get out. I actually don't think that's been rigorously studied that well. I think there could be more interesting analysis done, but whatever, that's the best data we have. Seed oils are estrogenic. They are in your body tissue. They stay there for a long time. Cellulite is encouraged in the presence of estrogen.
And how long do seed oils stay in the body once you consume them?
Several years is the punchline.
7 to 8 is what
Yeah.
they say.
Like 7 years for 90% to go away.
How do seed oils cause inflammation in the body?
So seed oils specifically mess with your like mitochondria and every other cellular piece of cellular machinery because they have little reactive oxygen species, or whatever. They have little molecules that take away electrons from other molecules. And so they get in your body and they like sort of destroy cells. It's like, I don't know, I'm a kid and I just built all my Lego sets perfectly. And then my older brother comes in with like a hammer and breaks it all down. It's like the seed oils are this hammer molecule that just destroys stuff by like ripping it apart. That's called free radicals, if anyone wants to like look more into this. Dr. Kate Shanahan also has a great book that explains all this. It's called Dark Calories.
So I interviewed Dr. Kate, but you know, she doesn't travel a lot
Right.
because she's very sick from seed oils
Right.
early on in her life. So we filmed that episode remote. And so I sent a crew to her to film to make sure it was like, it would look good, sound good, all that.
So cool.
While they were there, she said, oh, well, would you guys like a snack? And then she took out MASA Chips for them.
Nice.
And so they were so excited to have MASA Chips while they were working on that set. And I was like, how fun is that?
That's so
yeah,
cool.
so we love Dr. Kate.
Dr. Kate's incredible. Yeah, her book on seed oils is very well written and explains all this stuff. And
Dark calories.
yeah, dark calories. I don't know how much you want me to get into, but the punchline is that because they break cells, like they break molecules in cells, they cause damage wherever they go. So a lot of people think like, oh, if I sit too long, I'll hurt my back because like my back is affected. Or if I don't know, if I bump my elbow will hurt because my elbow was hit. Seed oils do this damage everywhere. And so when you hear something that causes like macular degeneration and obesity and Alzheimer's and cellulite and all these things, it can sound kind of unbelievable. It's like, how can one thing cause so many problems? But the reason is because there's this fundamental incompatibility between seed oils and human biology that causes damage everywhere it goes. And that will manifest as all these different sort of symptoms.
Is avocado oil a scam?
Mostly.
I
I
would still eat it over seed oils though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of rolling the dice there.
Yeah.
But so the avocado industry, most people don't realize, is controlled by the drug cartels in Mexico. They use this as a money laundering operation.
What?
Yeah, because they have all this money from like selling cocaine. They're like, well, what do I do with it? So they buy up avocado farms, and that's how they can like get in on legitimate industry.
So like this little cute mom who's cooking with avocado oil, she doesn't know she's like really in an episode of Narcos.
Likely, yeah. If it's Mexican derived, yeah, they run that show.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so like it's very ironic that you have these like ethical vegans in Brooklyn eating avocados because it's good for the world when they're like funding the, extortion and murder and God knows what else of, the avocado industry in Mexico by the drug cartels.
Also, the more ripe they get, the more oil they produce. So most of them are like rotten avocados that they just squeeze more oil out of.
And so it's bad for you to be eating the oil of a rotten avocado?
When the fats are exposed to water, they oxidize. And so if you think about an olive, it's like as soon as it's picked, right? It's like healthy on the tree. As soon as it's picked, it's crushed into olive oil. Done. Oil separated from water. The oil goes into nice dark glass jugs and it's shipped all over the world. You eat it within 2 years. Very legit. Avocado oil, on the other hand, is sort of a waste product of the avocado industry. No one's buying olives, right? But if you can charge $3, $4, however many dollars for an avocado, fresh and whole and whatever, you're going to do that because it's super valuable. So for me to take that avocado oil off the shelf and sell it as avocado oil, there's got to be a good reason. And there isn't, because avocados are super expensive. Instead, we just take the rotten avocados that don't make their way onto the shelves. So they're already rotting and oxidizing and whatever, at which point the oils have become compromised due to the water content of the avocado. Then we extract them. And then already it's kind of sus, which is why in the study that looked into this, not only were some avocado oils like actually laced with seed oils, like food fraud.
Food fraud.
So not only do we have this like fake avocado oil, we also have the part where they realized in the study that a lot of it was rancid. And that's because the avocado oil in the water spent a lot of time interacting.
What about a brand that we like Primal Kitchen and their avocado oil? Would you use it?
According to this study, 18% of avocado oil is good. Theoretically, I think it's fine, right? The fatty acid profile is all good. I think there's a lot of just like secondary industrial effects and problems with it. However, theoretically, avocado oil is good. And I've heard that certain brands have good avocado oil.
Okay.
I've heard good things about Primal Kitchen in particular.
Good.
But I have not gone and done the lab analysis on anything myself personally.
Sure. What olive oil brands do you like?
So if you want like a local USA grown brand, I recommend Zim's Organic. It's in Northern California, and he has a couple different varieties of olives. So there's like an Arbequina, there's Arbusona. So that's just like you get different flavor profiles. Like the Arbequina is a little more fruity, the Arbusona is a little more nutty, and the polyphenols are pretty good. But if you want like old world Italian, higher polyphenol, I really like Piro. It's a small brand. They have like the latest technology. So a lot of people think stone crushing olives is better because that's like the older process, but it actually exposes them to more oxygen, which is not good. So they have more modern technology that just like presses it, bottles it, so it's like protected by the oxygen.
Is olive oil a biblical superfood?
According to my Instagram bio, yes. There's trees that are like thousands of years old. I think you can even buy olives from like certain brands that have like really, really old trees. I don't think they actually used it as much for eating. I think they used it a lot for like lighting lamps, because where they were, they just had so much of it.
Yeah, in Orthodox Christianity, and I'm sure also in Catholicism, much of the holy oils which are used in many cases are olive oil based.
Yeah.
It's like the foundational thing. Or you have these lamps in a church that are like in a little red glass, and they're like always glowing. They're olive oil lamps.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh, they should be.
Well, keep Mia away. She might start drinking them.
Yeah.
One thing, and it honestly could have been you, I feel like I've seen people online who wake up and they pour a little shot of olive oil, squeeze a little lemon juice, and drink it. What are the benefits of having a shot of olive oil in the morning?
Yeah, so olive oil, if you have like fat first in the morning, especially olive oil is like a really good fat with lots of antioxidants. It stimulates your liver to produce bile, so it just gets your digestion going like this. stress. And then
if you're stuck, it can help you out.
yeah, which is actually the main reason I
So this is a
started
good
doing it.
constipation hack.
Constipation, bloating, whatever you have. But yeah, I started drinking a lot of olive oil because of constipation.
Do you like that better than what people say of having a glass of warm lemon water in the morning? Do you like olive oil better?
I like olive oil better because I feel like you get all the other benefits of, there's a little bit of vitamin E, you get the antioxidants, the polyphenols, all of that.
Is there a good way to detox from seed oils?
Yeah, actually, there are a few things. Before I get into that, I'll say that there's nothing that's been super rigorously studied because the people who fund science are not super interested in trying to figure out ways of detoxifying seed oils. But maybe in the coming years that'll change. However, seed oils cause oxidative stress. So what do you want to do to clean up the damage or prevent the damage is like load up on the antioxidants. And there are several of them. Vitamin E is one. Vitamin C is another. Glutathione is another. Again, Dr. Kate, we love her, has in her book all the antioxidants that play a role in the seed oil metabolism chain. And so whenever we go out to eat, for example, ashamedly happened the other day.
Oh my gosh.
We accidentally got laced. Well, I didn't. She got laced with seed oils.
What happened?
We found this place that was supposedly seed oil free. They use like organic grass-fed meat from a butcher shop next door. And so
it was in
yeah,
Mexico.
she even used raw milk in her smoothie. So we just assumed like, oh, she makes these empanadas from scratch. It was a travel day. We were so hungry. Like my primal brain, I looked at those empanadas. I knew that the dough was definitely seed oil, but I was so hungry. My primal brain just overrode that logical thinking. So,
Did you get sick?
no, because we took 2 vitamin E's. Yeah, instantly. And I didn't feel bad. I was very surprised.
I like the hack of vitamin E in the purse if you are going to consume seed oils.
Yeah, we always have it when we go out. Yeah.
And so I'll take like 1 vitamin E if I'm not, just in case, if I'm not the one or she's not the one putting everything in a pan or a pot, it's like, gotta be safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good idea. And that protects you if you're going out at restaurants or whatever. But then the other thing is you have body fat. You have to lose body fat, right? Because the seed oils are in the body fat. So this is a big one though, because losing body fat's not actually that easy. A lot of people blame like, oh, you don't have willpower, you need to work out harder, you need to eat less or whatever. That's not really how you lose body fat. And the reason is because seed oils are so damn toxic. By inserting them into the mitochondria to burn them as energy, they like tear the mitochondria apart from the inside. It's like they just implode. And again, Dr. Kate goes into details of how all this works in her book. Imagine the kid with the hammer and the Legos, and those Legos are your mitochondria, which are what's supposed to generate energy in your cells. They just blow up, basically. And so because of this effect, your body does not want to burn seed oils as energy, which is why they're in your body fat in the first place, because it's like keeping them there to get them out of the way. And so it's kind of unfortunate that we have this whole idea where if you're overweight, it's because you're lazy or something. It's so hard to lose that fat because burning it will create this toxic overload that your body then has to deal with.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing that too fast, like if you're losing too much weight too quickly or whatever, you're introducing so much garbage into your system. And it's not even the seed oils, like most toxins in the environment, all the microplastics and all that stuff in our fabrics and whatever, those get stuck in your body fat too. So like unleashing all this fat, it just overwhelms your detoxification pathways. And so it's hard to do that very quickly. And that's a big barrier when people are like, oh, I'm not eating much, or I'm working out really hard and I still can't lose weight. Well, yeah, because
they're like, I'm counting calories, so I'm only eating this many calories from Taco Bell a day.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Like stuff like that.
But your body doesn't want to burn it because if it does, you'll just poison yourself.
Wow.
And so you're just like walking around in this like fat suit of toxic sludge, basically.
So what's the solution for those people?
Yeah, it takes a long time and you have to like get all that stuff out slowly and support the liver and all these other things to allow that to be excreted out of the body cleanly.
It might get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And so you sauna, you have your antioxidants.
You think sauna, if you're trying to lose
Sauna
weight,
for
you need to be
sure.
on a sauna journey.
100%,
Definitely.
Yeah, because sauna is a very reliable way of getting junk out of your body through sweat. And so if the whole issue is that there's too much junk in your body, well, that's one way to do it.
What do you think about sauna for a fever?
I personally don't like doing it if I'm already sick. I think it's a good thing that you
Preventative.
do like when you're healthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right to me.
It might be dehydrating too. But
Yeah.
I do know people that just like wrap up in blankets or in like traditional Chinese medicine, especially postpartum when you're healing, you're supposed to like wrap up in blankets and be super, super hot. So I think the idea of trying to cool down a fever is not good, especially for babies. Like a lot of people freak out when babies have fevers, but in the crunchy mom community, it's kind of a good thing. So you want them to have that fever and they always have an upgrade after, like they'll start walking more or they'll say new words. But yeah, you want to let your body if it's inflamed and hot, you want to keep with that so that it can heal properly.
So what is the temperature like? Okay, well, if my baby, because you guys have a new baby,
Right.
if my baby reaches this temp though, it's like we have to go to the doctor.
I would say, like, if I can feel my my hand and it's just like warm and I know he's a little feverish, but if it's like burning hot and he has other symptoms that are concerning, like he's not, drinking, not using the bathroom, seems like he's getting dehydrated, that's when I would do something about it. Typically, every time I'm like, I'm going to give it a day or two, and typically he gets better after.
Before your man books that ticket to Turkey, hear me out. Hair thinning, balding, what you need and what he needs is cowboy colostrum. Also your kids. Colostrum is that magical first milk cows give like 4 to 6 hours after they've had a baby. And it's not just any milk. It's rich. It's packed with immunoglobulins, growth hormones, and all sorts of things that make your hair grow, your skin glow, and your immune system stop being a pathetic disaster. Cowboy colostrum is grass-fed, unlike those other companies who strip the good stuff out. It's like whole milk versus that skim nonsense. Cowboy colostrum is creamy, yellow, full of fat and nutrients, like a luxury protein shake for your insides and your hair. And it's in a tasteless powder to add to your hot or cold drinks. Now, if you do want flavor, they have chocolate and vanilla, the serving size. Now, this is really where Cowboy colostrum stands out against the others. Most of these companies give you like this teeny tiny sprinkle. Cowboys is giving you big cowboy servings, all right? 3 grams per scoop. And if you're training harder, you need a real boost, they say go for 2 to 3 servings. So more colostrum, less hair loss. You can throw it in your coffee, a smoothie, or just mix it in water if you're feeling fancy. And the taste, this is great. A vanilla milkshake from your childhood, okay? It's the only time you're actually going to look forward to something good for you. If you want your hair back, get on the Cowboy Colostrum train. Use code ALEX for 15% off at cowboycolostrum.com. Your hair and immune system are really going to see a difference. Cowboycolostrum.com, code ALEX. A couple weeks ago, I attended my friend's post-birth baby shower, and it was a beautiful day full of joy and excitement. But as I sat there holding my friend's precious newborn, I couldn't help but think, when did she have the time to think about herself? Moms often put their babies first. Healthier snacks, non-toxic lotions, even the cleanest baby wipes, right? New moms tend to neglect their own skincare and makeup routines, thinking that they don't have time for anything that isn't baby-related. That's when I thought of sending her some of my favorite makeup products from Adele Natural Cosmetics. Adele makes it easy to choose clean makeup, even for the busiest moms. This family-owned brand has been crafting non-toxic, nourishing products since 2014. The moisturizing foundation combines skincare and makeup in one, offering hydration and buildable coverage in a convenient stick form. It's perfect for a busy mom who wants that natural glow without worrying about harmful chemicals. The cream blush is another favorite. Hydrating, easy to apply, and it doubles as an eyeshadow. Adele's products are made with simple ingredients like jojoba oil and cocoa butter, so you can trust that they're safe for you and your family. Even the packaging is clean and eco-friendly. Go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, use code ALEX for 25% off your first order. That's AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com with code ALEX for 25% off your first order. Tell me your honest thoughts about President Trump's pick for USDA. So if you don't know, former seed oil lobbyist Kaylee Bohler worked as the president and CEO of the National Oilseed Processors Association and the Edible Oil Producers Association. She also worked as a lobbyist for the snack industry trade group, Snack International, SNAC International, and now she is chief of staff of USDA.
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess she has a lot of experience.
Sounds off the first bat to me that RFK did not have a ton to do with that decision.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think it's very easy for us to talk about, seed oils in the food industry and whatever. We often forget that this is a several $100 billion industry, which sounds like just numbers that don't even make any sense to anyone. It will not go gently into that good night, as they say. And if you think about this, ignoring the health aspect, just for a second, thought experiment to try to understand this, you have an industry that, from the brands, the manufacturers, the ingredient producers, whatever, it employs, I don't know, several 100,000 Americans. Like, that's their full-time job. There are entire towns in the Midwest dedicated to, making this stuff. If we were to just snap our fingers and disappear it tomorrow, there would be economic chaos. You would not, people would not be able to eat. Obviously, I don't think seed oils are food, but for a large proportion of people for whom they are food, they would not have food anymore. I think it's totally possible that we could have a food system in this country in particular built off of real food principles. but I don't think it's something that you can just snap your fingers and have happen overnight.
Everyone would be detoxing and
yeah, exactly. All our livers would be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you'd have like, I don't know, 500,000, 1 million people without a job. You'd have like entire pieces of infrastructure that like will, I don't know, fall apart, not going to use. You'd have financial problems. You'd have food shortages. You'd have all this stuff. Obviously, I'm not a fan of this personally. I don't think it's a good idea. However, I can understand the idea that if we wanted to dismantle, or not even dismantle, but like convert this industry into something beneficial, it's not going to happen by just like forcing it down people's throats and like ordering it from above. You'll have to like work with them and teach people, hey, this is why this is bad. And importantly, this is what we can do instead. Take this giant factory that's meant to make whatever ingredient. Well, how can we take all, like, I don't know, $500 million worth of equipment over all the factories in the country? How can we take this equipment and make something useful with it? How can we take all the trucks that Frito-Lay has and repurpose them for something beneficial to people? What about all the jobs that people do? Can we find something for them to do instead? Political and economic chaos is also unhealthy.
When I had talked to Pasture Bird's founder, Paul, about this, I had said, I think it's okay to admit I don't like this choice. We really like the choice of RFK. We really like the FDA choice. You know, we had a lot of wins when it comes to health in this administration, and maybe this is just the L we have to take. But, you know, maybe she will have her eyes open being amongst these great people like RFK Jr. or whatever. Who knows? Even though she's got all these seed oil ties, we can use it for good. She knows all the people. So then maybe if her mind has changed, then she can go back and go to these people and teach them what she's learned. I mean, who knows? You know, that's being very optimistic.
Right.
But I think overall we still won big with the picks that we got for this administration. So
I mean, everyone eats 3 times a day, and there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of days out there. And so food is a very, very, very big industry with a lot of people's livelihoods tied up in it. And so the process of creating something better is going to involve working with them to like fix what they're doing, right? Instead of just getting rid of them. You can't just do that.
You guys are probably America's most crunchy couple, I think. And one thing that you guys are really big proponents on that I've never had anybody discuss on the show is fabrics in our clothing and in our materials in our home. I've actually never covered that really on any episode.
Okay.
The reason this even is on my radar is because I posted x-rays from a chiropractor visit, and my audience, because some of them they've become too smart because now I'm getting called out, and they saw like on my x-rays that I had an underwire bra on. So they were like, Alex, why are you wearing underwire bras? And I was like, what are you talking about? Why am I getting hundreds of messages on this? What is the problem with underwire bras?
I haven't worn one in several years, minus the day of our wedding, because I wanted to look nice, you know. There's a lot of lymph nodes up here, so they can prevent lymphatic flow, and breast tissue is mostly fat, so that has hormones, toxins, and so if you're blocking the lymph flow, that can just keep all those toxins up there, and then things can get stuck, and then this part of your body is all crooked because it can't like flush out the toxins. And then also, because underwire bras provide support for you, then your muscles don't learn how to support. So actually, underwire bras can cause more sagging in the future.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm convinced. You talking about how they don't let you detox, you're keeping all your toxins up here. And then I'm thinking about the girls who are reluctant to get rid of that toxic deodorant. So not only are you wearing underwear bras, then the deodorant, whoa.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about it too. I was like, I wonder how much of that contributes to like moms who are breastfeeding that get mastitis and clogged ducts and everything because they just, they've been wearing a underwire bra their whole life.
So are you just braless, or you're doing sports bras, or what? What's the solution?
I need some support.
Yeah.
So I do like wireless bras, bralettes. I found like a mostly wool one that I've been wearing postpartum. But
what is it?
Brawin, something like that. But it's mostly wool, which it's really nice. But before I got pregnant, I was able to just get away with like a cotton bralette, or I even found some merino wool ones, like fully merino wool that I would wear. And, obviously if I'm like going to see the parents or, the parents-in-law or whatever, I will wear something more proper and supportive. But I try to just let them hang out as much as they can.
This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Why does the fabric of our clothes really matter?
Bad fabric is bad for a number of reasons, and good fabric is good for a number of reasons. There's like levels to these things. And one thing people like to think is in terms of trade-offs, and I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but something's good over here for this reason. For example, oh, that dude is very smart. He must also be bad at sports, for example. Good comes with bad. That's like a very common cultural idea that Americans have. It's like trade-offs happen. If something's good for one reason, it's bad for another reason. Vegans say meat might taste good, but it's bad for the planet or whatever. But we know from health and regenerative agriculture that it's not the case, right? The food that tastes the best is the healthiest for us, and it's also good for the planet. We know that we win along all those dimensions, and that the bad food loses on the other ones. So I think it's similar with fabrics. And so what I mean is, if you have a pair of pants made of polyester, they are horrendous for the environment, right? It's plastic, right? So you're making thin little plastic filaments that looks like the things that used to be in a light bulb, like little tiny wires, and weaving them into a fabric and then putting it on your legs, right? So we're drilling oil to make the clothes, first off. So not very good for the environment. It doesn't last very long. You end up throwing it out, it gets microplastics in the water, in the air, and whatever. So bad. The other thing is that this stuff is on your skin. So now we're talking at the health dimension. It's not the environment, it's the health dimension. Especially these polyester clothes, nylon, whatever, all these plastics are most commonly employed in form-fitting activewear, right? Yoga pants and athleisure and all this stuff. And so now we have plastic right up against our skin that like sheds little microplastic particles mixed in with warm sweat in between our skin, and it like dissolves in our skin, right? Because your skin absorbs everything that it touches. So now you're absorbing microplastics right into your body. And microplastics are particularly insidious because they mimic estrogen. We already talked about estrogen. So estrogen dominance is one of the chief causes of a lot of the symptoms that women have, like PCOS, endometriosis, and all this stuff.
Too.
Cellulite,
Yeah.
all this garbage. And so estrogen dominance is this problem. Now we're introducing artificial chemicals that mimic estrogen, allowing our body to think we have even more estrogen than we do. It's basically like injecting yourself with estrogen, xenoestrogens, all that stuff.
What about rayon?
Rayon is made of bamboo, so that's a separate topic.
I believe it's semi-synthetic, so it's
Yeah.
like kind of one of those could be good, could be bad.
Yeah, like the bamboo-derived fabrics, bamboo is very hard, if anyone's ever seen bamboo. So it takes a lot of chemicals to like kind of dissolve the cellulose to make it soft enough to weave into a fabric. And so it's questionable if the extent to which those chemicals remain in the resulting piece of clothing.
Okay.
So yeah, the modal and tencel and the rayon, those are all bamboo-derived fabrics.
So
that's-
does our bedding and sheets and throw pillows and blankets also all need to be natural fabrics?
I think that's
100%.
even more important than clothes because you're spending 8 hours a night-ish there,
yeah,
for most of your life.
breathing the dust, right? Like you have the dust on your dresser, right? What is that made of? It's made of the fibers of your clothes. If your clothes are made of plastic, it's made of plastic. And so you're breathing in the dust and you're breathing in plastic dust.
And you're sweating at night and warming up those sheets. Ooh.
If I sleep in polyester sheets, I will like get night sweats and wake up and
Yeah,
can't
it's
sleep
also
at
just
all.
uncomfortable.
It's horrible.
Like cotton sheets, linen sheets, they're much better for whatever environment you're in,
Yeah.
cold, warm.
So that's the last thing. Okay, so we talk about the environment, and so we have, it's bad. It's made of plastic. It's petroleum-derived plastic. We have the health aspect, which is like you're dissolving microplastics in your body, which are bad because they mimic hormones. One last thing I'll say on that is that fake hormones can access your DNA. I forget the name of the author, but there's this book called Estrogeneration, which talks all about the types of synthetic hormones and whatever. The cell, if you remember from biology class, has a membrane, right? And inside the cell is the nucleus that holds the DNA. And the nucleus has its own membrane. And so the cell membrane, a lot of stuff can go in and out as is needed for the cell to function. But the nucleus is just there to split, for the DNA to replicate and then create new cells. So what is involved in the replication of new cells? Sex hormones. And so chemicals that mimic sex hormones are able to get into the nuclear DNA and do God knows what, because they can pass that membrane, get into where the DNA is stored, and who knows what the hell they do. So that's one of the reasons, in addition to hormones and hormonal damage and everything, why synthetic hormone chemicals are so insidious. It's like they can actually touch our physical DNA, which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really terrifying.
Terrifying. That's the health thing. And then the last thing is comfort, right? Like there's a good natural fabric for every use case, right? So cotton is good in certain weather. Wool is better in other weather. Linen is also good in other things. So like it looks good. It wears well. It's durable. It's like, I don't know, stylish, dare I say.
Yeah.
And it's way more comfortable. Like, I don't know, the polyester sheets, like we talked about, it's like icky. I don't know. I always had a problem from the earliest days of my youth with like synthetic socks. It would just make my feet and like skin crawl.
And then you're washing and drying it, and then you're releasing microplastics into the air. So yeah, it's just a whole slurry of consequences.
Well, I also did not realize until recently that when you are shopping places like Zara, H&M, Shein, that clothing a lot of times is filled with lead. that they're making over in China, and it's just nasty.
Synthetic dyes and God knows what else.
Also, the chemical structure of polyester and the chemical structure of fragrances stick to each other more. So if you're using something like Tide and polyester, then that like literally sticks forever in those clothes. You cannot get the smell of Tide out of those
It
clothes.
smells so bad.
Yeah, but if you buy like cotton and maybe someone used Tide, you could leave it out in the sun for 2 weeks and the Tide will escape. But so polyester and fragrances just like make it even worse together.
One thing that you guys chose to do, which has to be one of the most controversial parenting decisions I've ever seen, and some would call it gravely irresponsible, potentially, is that you chose to not only have an unmedicated birth, I mean, you chose to have 0 doctor intervention, period, throughout your entire 9-month pregnancy.
Well, gravely irresponsible only if it didn't work.
Yeah.
And it did. You have a beautiful, healthy baby.
Yeah.
So when we talk about 0 medical intervention, how many ultrasounds did you get?
0.
You gave birth where?
At home, in our apartment, in our dining room.
In
in
an
birth
inflatable pool where
Yeah.
our dining room table is.
Yep.
Why did you choose not to have any ultrasounds throughout your pregnancy?
So I met a friend who we bonded about home birth. We were totally like on the home birth ride, and she told me to check out this podcast called Free Birth Society. I listened to it. I realized all of these women were having pregnancies and birth that were totally normal, totally healthy without any medical intervention. So, you know, I did a deep dive and realized that like a lot of people did this in the past. Being pregnant is not a sickness. It is not an illness. It is a totally normal thing. If you're normal and healthy, then you can have a perfectly fine pregnancy and birth. And because of my experience with the doctors when I was a teenager, I just like was distrustful of doctors from that point on. You know, I'm like, they're not going to help me fix my stomach as a child. What are they going to do for me when I'm pregnant? I also watched the documentary Business of Being Born. So yeah, I was totally bought in. And then my friend who told me about that podcast ended up getting pregnant. And so I watched her do the thing. She didn't go to any doctors throughout her pregnancy. And then she had her birth and I actually attended her birth. She wanted me there to be support. I feel like there's this whole thing, like if you are in the free birth, that it's like better to do it by yourself, or like it, you know, I feel like there's kind of that idea, but it's not. Like it's so nice to have a woman there to support you during your pregnancy and birth, and like to go along with you throughout that whole journey, tell you everything's okay, like this symptom's normal. So I literally watched her birth and her baby was totally healthy, and I watched her baby like grow up a little bit, and then I got pregnant.
Did you also find out that ultrasounds could damage a baby?
Yes, definitely. And actually, like even some of his extended family members back in the day were like anti-ultrasound. I don't know exactly what it can do, but basically it can affect the DNA. The exposure to radiation could be bad. But honestly, for me, it wasn't about that specifically. I could have gotten one ultrasound and I would have been fine. I even thought about it in the beginning of my pregnancy, you know, like I'm like, is everything okay? Does it have all its kidneys or whatever? I didn't know if it was a girl or boy. But for me, it was about being sucked into that cascade of interventions. And I didn't want to deal with the stress of that. I felt like I felt safer just staying away from it.
And was this scary to you as a first-time dad, not even having one check?
No.
On one of our first dates, he was telling me like stories about how, you know, women used to go run in the woods and birth and do whatever with their placenta. And I was like, this man is crazy.
I mean, okay, so maybe a more helpful answer, maybe a bit controversial, but you know, humans have 2 legs. We're meant to walk around, right? We have teeth. We're meant to eat. Women have the body parts that cause them to be meant to give birth. They're designed to do this. The best we as humans can do is just get out of the way and let nature take its course. The worst we can do is when we try to get involved with our big ideas and like say, oh no, birth should happen this way, or like go lie on your back, or go take this medicine or this pill. None of us would be here if home birth were dangerous, right? We would not have evolved out of the amoeba stage or whatever. We'd be still asexually reproducing like an amoeba if home birth were bad, right? Animals do it all the time, humans do it all the time. And so the question is, what caused all the difficulty that is commonly faced amongst women who give birth in, I guess, the past several hundred years? Before we even started dating, it was just an interest of mine, like learning about this stuff because I was, you know, interested in health and whatnot. And a lot of the things that are problems have pretty specific causes. So one thing is that women in hospitals give birth on their backs, right? Because in the Victorian era, the British doctors, of course, who are all men, were like, it's indecent for us to like see a woman's butt sticking up in the air. So we're going to have the women lying in the bed like a hospital patient. So it's easier for us to do our thing. But no other mammal gives birth in that position. Every
Right.
mammal gives birth on all fours, like squatting down or whatever. And like the way that the hips rotate when you're on your back versus when you're hunched over, completely different. The hips open up. And so, the child can emerge more naturally. So that's one thing. And obviously, birth is a very complicated topic.
The American College of Obstetricians say that home birth is less safe than hospital birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they're saying that.
It's because, they're funded by all of these people because they're an organization. One of their biggest funders is this brand called Hologic. They sell all of their prenatal tests to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So they influence the health insurance and say, hospital birth is better because they want to sell all of these products and make billions and billions of dollars for all of these companies that are funding them.
I think there's an element also which, like, as a man, like, birth sort of represents the primordial feminine chaos of the universe. So there's like this philosophical idea where like women are like the ocean, right? We've heard of this. And so if I'm like a Victorian era doctor and I'm looking at this chaos, it kind of terrifies me, right? And also just like empathy, right? Picturing me giving birth, it's insane, right?
Right.
Terrifying, like, ugh, right? Like, how can we do this? But men are very different from women, as we know. But if we have the idea that like, oh, I'm going to bring an orderliness to this chaotic process. I'm going to introduce a hospital bed. I'm going to introduce a C-section. I'm going to introduce a lying on your back. I'm going to have a Pitocin. I'm going to have a this. I'm going to have that.
You need more interventions to deal,
Yeah, it's
to
like-
keep the chaos contained.
It's like you have the ocean and you're trying to stop the waves, right? So we're going to put a wall here and then the waves are just going to go over the wall. We'll build a taller wall, but then the waves are going to go over here. It's like you can't contain the freaking ocean and you're just going to be like causing yourself a whole bunch of pain in the process, polluting the damn thing every step of the way. So the best thing is just let it do its thing. Make sure the process is supported by what it needs from a health standpoint, right? Like there was no lack of nutrients or overabundance of stress or anything, right? Like, so
Just letting nature run its course.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so-
Do what we were designed.
And I knew she's like a tough cookie. I knew she could do it, and she did, and it was great.
Why are you guys against epidurals?
There's several reasons. The first thing that comes to my head is because you can't feel if you're tearing. And a lot of the times, even me, like giving birth, I was like ready to get it out. And Steven was like, slow down, take your time. In that position, you are more likely to tear because you can't feel what's going on. And I feel like that's a lot of women have a fear of tearing, being pregnant, birth, your body changes, whatever. That's like a huge fear. And epidurals kind of encourage that.
Similar to
And-
how everyone's addicted to opioids, right? Like, you go get surgery for your knee, then you're prescribed OxyContin, and then you can't feel the pain because it's such a good freaking painkiller. You get up before you're supposed to, start walking on your knee. You think everything's fine because it doesn't hurt. Meanwhile, you're causing, irreparable damage to your, now weakened knee tissue that's recovering. You go back to the doctor, and then he's like, well, your knee's even worse now. It hurts even more. You get more OxyContin, then you don't feel it anymore. And then you're like, I got to get back to my life. So you keep walking on your knee. And then before you know it, you need a knee replacement, whatever. God knows. Like, you destroyed your knee. Pain is a useful thing to prevent us from exceeding our limits. And if you can't feel it, you're operating without any sort of feedback there.
Also, if it's so strong to numb the entire lower half of your body, what does that do to your newborn baby? Like you have no idea because your baby's connected to you through like all of, through the placenta. So they're getting exactly what's going in your blood, minus the filtering, but you don't know what that does to your baby.
Okay, let's talk about something that really grosses me out. Eating snacks with seed oils. It's like you're a rat eating chips over a sink at a truck stop diner. Your face is covered in greasy crumbs. You've got the grease dripping down your chin, and you're just praying that your 79-year-old ex-boyfriend doesn't walk in. Making this bad situation even worse, well, the seed oils that are chemically deodorized to hide the rancid effects. Gross, right? Imagine what that does in your body. Actually, we don't have to imagine. Look at our record rates of chronic disease in America right now. That is why I ditched all of the seed oil junk for MASA Chips. Seed oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which can promote inflammation in the body when consumed in excess, disrupting the balance with anti-inflammatory omega-3s. Additionally, the chemical processing of seed oils creates harmful compounds, including trans fats, which can contribute to heart disease, obesity, and other chronic health issues. MASA Chips are made with only 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, grass-fed beef tallow, and real sea salt. No seed oils, no chemical mess, just real food that's better for you. These chips are so crunchy, incredibly tasty, and actually good. Beef tallow is packed with nutrients and healthy fats that are better tasting chips than you've ever had, okay? Visit masachips.com. Use code REALALEXClark for 20% off your first purchase. That's masachips.com, code REALALEXClark for 20% off seed oil-free MASA Chips. Were you consciously doing or eating certain things to prep your body for pregnancy?
I was just kind of living the lifestyle, like I was eating a lot of nutrient-dense organic meats from our local farmer, local veggies, good carbs, potatoes, rice, whatever.
Raw milk.
Raw milk, a lot of raw milk.
Did you keep drinking raw milk while pregnant?
I did.
What else did you eat while pregnant?
I had raw milk. I had oysters like once a week. There was a happy hour we would just walk to from our apartment. They would look at me like I was crazy every time I walked in there. I had liver. Oh, I did have sushi once. I had a sushi craving. I ate it once and then I was good.
One question actually that hasn't been answered on the podcast that I've been getting lately about raw milk is raw milk safe for babies and toddlers?
Yes, definitely. I have tons of friends who feed their babies raw milk.
That's not to say one particular bottle of raw milk could be bad. I don't know. Is your farmer like doing the right things to get spoiled? Is it refrigerated? Whatever. However, the vast majority of the babies fed high quality raw milk seem to be doing just fine.
I think there could be some period where like maybe the mom is drinking a lot of dairy and some of the cow protein can pass through the breast milk and the baby's not ready for it yet. And so some moms might have to cut out dairy for a little bit. I have a lot of moms on my Instagram who have had to cut out dairy just for a little bit until their baby's a little more developed. So you kind of just have to play with it, see how your child reacts and everything. But everything gradually.
Were there any supplements that you liked taking before giving birth?
I did dates and red raspberry tea like crazy toward the end of my pregnancy.
What do dates do?
Dates help soften the cervix, so it's easier for it to dilate. And then red raspberry tea tones your uterus. So, it makes the contractions a lot more efficient. I definitely took probably a few beef liver supplements, although I like just eating the beef liver over the supplements, but I probably had some of those. A lot of magnesium. I did a combination of citrate and glycinate. I did some cod liver oil too because that has vitamin A, vitamin D, and I was pregnant throughout the winter months, so you don't get a ton of vitamin D, so I did take some cod liver oil. I think that's it though. A lot of it was diet for me. And I could see like the second pregnancy, I'd probably need to supplement more because I feel like I had really good reserves for my first pregnancy because I prepared with my diet for 2-3 years.
What do you know about most sliced bread in stores?
So bread is bad for 5 reasons. Ready? One is that it doesn't have 3 ingredients. Bread must have 3 ingredients: flour, salt, and water, right? Number 2 is that it's not sourdough. So yeast, chemical, GMO, factory yeast from a chemistry lab that was stuck in the bread to make it perfectly fluffy and white and whatever. Real bread should be made with sourdough. Ideally, a sourdough starter collected from the air, like created from the air nearby where you live, because you can just do that. You can just make a sourdough starter anywhere. So yeah, that's number 2. Bread should be sourdough. Number 3 is not organic. So not only is most wheat sprayed with glyphosate, which everyone knows about and all this stuff, wheat flour is enriched with a whole bunch of synthetic vitamins like iron and synthetic B vitamins and also, folic acid, which is B3, B5.
Which like 40% of the population can't even digest folic acid.
Yeah, folic acid is a synthetic form of folate, the actual nutrient. And so it's mandated by law to be present in like non-organic like white flour. So that's number 3. Number 4 is it's probably not whole wheat, and whole wheat is ideal because when wheat is 3 parts, and when you mill white flour, you only take one of the parts, not the whole thing. And so the last thing is that if it's whole wheat, though, it should be freshly milled. So a big thing is that when you mill flour, it starts to go bad relatively quickly.
There's a little bit of oil in there.
Do you have one of those at home?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
I got it on the internet. It's by this German company. It's like the Mock Mill. M-O-C-K.
It's just a little countertop, so
It's
keep it under, pull it out whenever we want to mill flour.
Like literally got stones. Like
Yeah.
I'm like a miller, like with a water wheel.
Hey, I love the 5 tips from Really Tan Man to ideal bread or what should be real bread.
So there's a bonus 6th one, which is ancient grains. So the type of wheat matters, of course. And so there's, super modern wheat, which is like a breed that's been GMO'd or hybridized since the 1950s. There's like less modern wheat that's like probably, it's better, but maybe not ideal. It's like strains of wheat from the 1800s. And then there's ancient grains, which are like 7 of them. I forget.
Similar to like A1, A2 milk.
Yeah,
like there's different proteins that are easier for humans to digest.
Yeah, these are like thousands of years old, like einkorn, spelt. People have heard of these.
Right.
And so ideally the flour comes from those grains, which are grown organically and freshly milled, made into sourdough bread without any other ingredients, and that's your ideal bread.
Are you guys bought into the like number 1 superfood people don't give enough credit to is butter?
I think it's great. I wouldn't say it's the number 1 thing, but it's awesome.
What, in your opinion, is like number 1 superfood?
Ice cream is the number 1 superfood.
Why is ice cream? Isn't that unhealthy?
Absolutely not. So this is another one of those things where there's the wrong version of the food, which is common and everyone knows and like thinks it's bad. And there's the real version of the food made right with the real ingredients, grown in the right way. And that's always even more delicious than this thing everyone's familiar with. And it's healthier. And ice cream is the perfect example of this because what do you have? You have raw milk, right? Which is naturally high in all the relevant vitamins. So like milk is cool because it's the only it's the only food designed to sustain mammalian life without anything else. Right?
Perfectly balanced carbs, fat, protein. You have all the vitamins. It's hydration. There's a lot of minerals.
Yeah. Every mammal goes from like barely able to walk to like mostly functional on a purely milk diet. Milk is great. So
And
you
that's
have
how Europeans survived winter.
yeah, pretty much.
Right. Yeah,
So-
nobody talks about that.
The ability to digest dairy is a massive evolutionary advantage to anyone that can do it because you have like your food source is before refrigeration, right? Before packaging, before preservatives, and you just have your food that walks along with you. And it feeds itself, it cleans itself, it waters itself, it poops itself, and you just like get food from it that's like perfectly nutrient dense and calorically abundant, and you just eat it, and it's great.
Well, how about a food that everybody thinks is really healthy that you guys do not, which is raw vegetables?
Oh yeah, I mean, so cruciferous vegetables I'd say are the worst, like kale. Kale's the worst, and the reason for this is largely due to the anti-nutrients, specifically like calcium oxalate. So oxalic acid is this indigestible like crystal thing made of calcium. And so my uncle is a functional medicine doctor and he told me this really crazy thing once. A lot of his patients that come to him who are like big green smoothie gals mostly, they have these crystals in their urine which are precursors to kidney stones. And they're caused by calcium oxalate, which is in cruciferous vegetables. All those supposed vitamins that are in kale are not the right forms for humans. So it has vitamin K, but it's vitamin K1, and we need vitamin K2. It has vitamin D, but it's vitamin D2, and we need vitamin D3. It has calcium, but it's calcium oxalate, and we can't digest it and it gives us kidney stones. So it's like this deceptive thing, you know, we think that it's good for us, but we can't actually access any of it. It's kind of like, I don't know, the gold in Aladdin, right? We see it, we think we can get it, we take it out of the cave, and then the whole cave collapses and the gold like turns to dust.
Well, I had this woman, Sally Norton, on. Do you know her?
I listened to that. It was really good.
Okay, so do you agree with what she was saying? Because that was very interesting with my audience. It was pretty split. People that thought that was crazy of her saying vegetables are not healthy. They might be making you sick. And then half were like, this answered so many unanswered, bizarre symptoms I have health-wise. And I'm cutting out vegetables now and see how I do.
I honestly believe that. I mean, I personally healed a lot when I just had cooked vegetables and I had to avoid a lot of vegetables like kale, garlic, onion for a while. Peppers.
Ooh, yeah, peppers are
Yeah,
rough.
even still, like it causes indigestion. And I feel like because I was so sensitive to all of that before, I still am a little sensitive, which tells me something, right? Like I could eat tons of meat and I'd be fine.
Right.
I mean, I totally buy it. And I feel like there's a lot of people above our generation that think you need to eat more vegetables and live like the blue zones and whatever. But if you go to the blue zones, it's all meat. Like we literally went there this summer in Sardinia and it was snails and
a giant
cheese
bowl of snails.
and steak.
Did they
and
do the
pork.
garlic and the butter and all that at least?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
good. I probably like that.
One of the things about should I eat this or should I not eat this? The first thing is like if it's fake food, no one should eat it. Full stop.
Yeah.
Like if it's made in a factory, if it requires like technology post 1850 to manufacture, you should not eat it. I don't care who you are, you shouldn't eat it. On the other hand, it's all the foods that are natural, right? Garlic grown well is natural. Peppers grown well. All of this stuff is natural. But maybe I can't eat some of them, and maybe she can't eat others of them. Maybe you can't eat others of them. And some people can eat them just fine. And I think the issue is that people misunderstand the point of a diet. And the point of a diet is to heal something. I want to lose weight, or I need to heal my gut, or I have acne or whatever. Like that's the point of the diet. But like the goal is not to be in a diet forever. You should heal yourself and then try to live a normal, functional life, eating as much and variety of stuff as is interesting to you. Again, with the rule that everything should be real, natural, occurring food, not technological.
I mean, I
food.
like a balanced plate, you know, like a good chunk of meat, a little bit of carbs, and a little bit of vegetables, not overdoing anything, you know, because if you overdo the carbs, you're going to be super full. If you overdo the vegetables, you're going to be super bloated. Like just a good balanced plate, you know, it's simple. And people get so crazy about it.
Yeah, and they hear like what I don't want to happen is someone hear this and be like, oh, I like peppers. I can eat peppers. I'm going to stop eating peppers because they said to not eat peppers. No, I didn't say not eat peppers. I'm
so glad you're saying this.
Can't eat peppers because I burp them up when I eat them. But you might not.
I have, tons and tons of different episodes. The different people have different opinions. It's like, I am not interviewing every person saying, okay, now every tip that every guest gives, you have to apply this to your life.
Right.
I've never said that.
Right.
Some people in my audience get so bent out of shape. They're like, well, really, tan man said this, but then the guest before that said this. So how am I supposed to incorporate this? Like, why is, Sally Norton saying no vegetables and now this person's saying this? I'm like, you take what works for you. If you are getting sick and you are eating salads every meal and you can't figure out what's making you sick, maybe it is the vegetables. But it's like, that is not for every single person. So I'm glad that you said that. There is nuance to some of this of what is going to apply to you and what isn't. And then, finding new tips and new perspectives and, adding things here and there. But it's like this, people get very bent out of shape. Like,
and
we're
it's not
creating
like
rules.
We listened to a podcast and we were like, oh, found our solution to health. Now we're healthy. It's
I've never done that.
It's a rocky road. Like, you have to figure it out.
So if you're listening and doing that, stop doing that. I'm telling you, stop.
And even if you do find the thing that works, okay?
Yes.
Let's say we found it. Let's say we got the right combination of tips and then we're perfect. Guess what? Your body's going to be different next week, next month, next year.
Yep.
Goes from daytime to nighttime.
Different seasons.
You're working
Pre-kids, after kids.
Right.
Yeah.
You're working out a lot now. You're not working out a lot. You're getting a lot of sun this year. You're not getting a lot of sun next year. Your body's going to change. And especially for women who I imagine are most of the people listening to this, like, even if your life stays the same, you're going to change constantly every single month.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to have to deal with that in your diet. So a lot of the biohacking stuff is mostly like a male dominated cultural category.
That's a good
It's
point.
like, I want to find the right set of supplements and the right set of food, and I'm going to eat the same thing every day. I'm going to work out at the same time, do the same things, and I'm going to have my routine, and it's never going to change. So that's good. Maybe that's possible for men, although I'd still say life will cause changes you could not anticipate. But even still, it's like maybe potentially possible. But if you're a woman listening to this, not possible at all. Don't even try.
Which is why it's nice to kind of be removed from the mainstream a little bit, because then you can listen to, what am I craving? Oh, I'm craving a steak. I'm going to eat a steak. Not like, oh, they're telling me steak is bad and I need to go eat Beyond Meat or whatever.
It's being in tune with your body, which is the overarching theme. That is the consistent theme, is being in tune with your own body and paying attention to hear those signs. Would you put sunscreen on your baby?
Never.
No.
Would you feed your baby raw honey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he's not really eating much solid food anyway, so it's not a question.
So you would give a baby under 1 honey?
Yes. Also, most of those studies are done when babies are like 2 to 4 months. So pretty much from like 6 months up, you could be okay feeding them a little. And I have friends that, feed their babies honey.
To be fair, our baby's like 10 months old and still mostly eating breast milk.
Yeah.
And so it's like not even an option, but I don't know. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, but if he's sick, the other day I was worried there was a little honey in the tincture. I'm like, he'll be fine.
What is so special about MASA Chips?
So remember how we were talking about how it's not the things that you avoid, it's the things that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So what it has is corn, organic corn cooked the way that it was originally done by the Aztecs who invented the process of making corn digestible like several thousand years ago. It has good quality sea salt and has beef tallow, which is not only not a seed oil, it is very full in fat. It's rich in fat-soluble vitamins. It's the best cooking oil. It's high in saturated fat. It's the type of fat when you detox seed oils from your body, you're going to want to replace it with saturated fat.
I feel better when I actually eat your chips. I swear.
Yeah.
And I think it is because of the beef tallow giving me those healthy fats.
Yeah.
I love how I feel when I eat your chips.
It fills you up faster. So seed oils don't fill you up, but saturated fat does. So you need fewer to feel satisfied.
Yeah. In short, it's like the tortilla chip as it was meant to be, if you will. There's all these things that we were used to in modern society of like a fake this. I mean, even clothes, like, oh, fake pants made of polyester. Oh, a fake table made of plastic and not made of wood. Oh, fake food made out of chemicals and not actual ingredients. It's, I would say, the best, in my opinion, snack that conforms to this idea of actual food, right? It's actual food in a bag. It's not a packaged processed food.
Yeah, so it's not just a snack. Like, we have it at meals, like we'll have nachos for dinner, or we'll bring it on the road, or bring it traveling, and then we have like that plus a few other things, and we have a meal. It's food.
I think the flavor everybody's sleeping on is churro.
Oh, yeah.
Those slap. I mean, with a little scoop of vanilla ice cream, that is my jam, are those churro chips. You guys really did those right.
Yeah.
And I have to bring it up because it's a question I get asked a lot. Why are MASA chips so expensive?
It goes back to what we were saying before about this several $100 billion food industry. Take Frito-Lay, for example. Doritos are the toxin-filled MASA chip, if you will. Frito-Lay has 30 factories across the country, each of which produces, I don't know, several million to tens of millions of bags a year. All their machinery is automated and robotic. They don't have people, they have just conveyor belts and all this stuff. And they get the cheapest possible ingredients at the lowest possible prices because they're buying entire fields worth of horrendously grown corn and whatever else. And lastly, they have these deals because they're so big with the grocery stores where their markup on shelf is lower than, say, mine would be. So a normal chip might be 35 to 40% of the sale price goes to the grocery store when you buy it at the store. But for Frito-Lay, their products, it's like 25% because they have these deals negotiated.
And everyone's like, why aren't you guys in Whole Foods? Why aren't you guys in Whole Foods? Like, well, they have to build it from zero. They don't have all this infrastructure in place to be able to produce that many chips to supply to all the Whole Foods in the US. So it's like, we have to work on it slowly.
Slowly. And then when that happens, that's when you'll start seeing prices lower.
Yeah. In contrast, like we have one factory that's like a few thousand square feet with fryers that are manually operated by people, like lifting them and stirring them and doing that whole thing. Seasonings, for the most part, are applied by hand with a salt shaker, put into bags by hand. We're buying the highest quality ingredients we can get, and we're buying them at relatively, I mean, we're decently sized now, but it's still relatively small quantities compared to Frito-Lay. So it's like everything that they have going for them that enables them to be cheap, we do the exact opposite. And I think the result speaks for itself, but yes, it comes at a cost.
Yeah, and you do get 20% off with Real Alex Clark, that code at masachips.com with your first purchase. So people do have that if they've been wanting to try.
Yeah.
And that also works for Vandy Chips. You guys own the parent company, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Vandy Chips is a seed oil-free potato chip. Best I have ever had. And all of my team, they're like, when are you going to bring those Vandy Chips in, Alex? Like, they are addicted to those. So that's the new thing.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed you a couple years ago, do you remember what I said my wish list was for Ancient Crunch?
No. Wow. Remind me.
I want Ancient Crunch to produce a really good gluten-free, seed oil-free pretzel.
Oh, pretzel.
There is no
Interesting.
pretzel that is gluten-free and seed oil-free. The only thing I can find is like cauliflower pretzels. They're disgusting. So there's nothing.
Right.
If you guys can master that, I will be so happy.
I will definitely note that one.
Okay.
Keep you posted.
That's what you said before. So I'm reminding you.
Yeah.
I'm reminding you.
Yeah. It takes time.
I get it.
Eventually.
Give us 3 simple steps someone can do today to start becoming a seed oil disrespector.
Cook at home more.
Yeah. Eat out less or at restaurants that you know can cook with proper oils.
And ask questions, read ingredient labels. Don't blindly just eat things, like become interested in what you're
read
eating.
the labels basically.
Be aware of what you're eating.
If you read the labels and you don't buy things that have seed oils in them, you cook things at home, which is very, relatively, you can find a lot of things that are good that you can cook at home. And if you eat out at restaurants that are vetted or, you make a big stink and ask for butter or whatever, you'll be, 90% of the way there. That's pretty much it.
If you had one remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, mentally, or spiritually, what would it be? Mia, I'll start with you.
I would say to just have faith, it's super important. I feel like it's what got me through my pregnancy, my birth. At the end of the day, everything's in God's hands. So you do your best. And when you do it in God's name, I feel like you just surrender and everything comes out how it should.
Okay, going back to what we said before about you can't just change the $100,000 billion industry overnight. I just do that, right? All food resources involved in the production or sale of food in America only making real food. None of this like, oh, this is all that's banned. It's like, no. Anything after 1850, gone, right? All our farms, they're not growing like sunflowers for sunflower oil. They're growing cattle, regenerative agriculture cattle, to make tallow. Our dairy farms, none of this warehouse BS, like cows on grass, that we milk. Our bodies are made of food, right? It's not going to fix everything, certainly not. But if there's, if you are what you eat, and we are a bunch of toxic chemical crap, because we eat a bunch of toxic chemical crap, then everything else downstream of that is going to be a bunch of toxic chemical crap, and we don't want that.
Well, you guys are my fave internet couple. I adore both of you. I love your mission. I love your company. You guys have so much integrity just throughout the years, and MASA Chips is just growing, and you guys have maintained all of the values that you said you stood for, which I've loved. And, the first time I interviewed you, I was just a fan, not a sponsor or whatever, and now this has blossomed and you guys sponsor the show. You guys believe in what I'm doing, and it's just like this beautiful friendship. You guys came to the Senate hearing when I testified with RFK Jr. That was crazy. You guys drove in and did all that with little tan olive oil baby. And so you guys have just become such good friends to me, and I just love seeing everything you're doing, and my audience loves you. They love the first interview, so I'm so happy that Mia could join on this one, which is very cool.
Thanks
Awesome.
for
Thanks so
having
much
us.
for having us.
Yeah.
This is great.
Well, my entire outfit is definitely not Really Tan Man Olive Oil Queen approved, but that's okay. They still love me anyway. They've been amazing friends of mine in the show for years. Several years ago, I had Really Tan Man on. It was like one of the first health and wellness episodes that I ever did because I just loved MASA Chips so much. They were not even a sponsor then. And now look where we are, sponsors of the show, but also great friends, and they give good advice and life hacks and tips and tricks for living a healthier life. Please leave a 5-star review if you love this episode. Tell others why they should listen to Culture Apothecary. We're on a mission to heal a sick culture Mondays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Every guest brings their own unique remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Subscribe to Real Alex Clark on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Real Alex Clark. Also, you can follow the show on Instagram for extra content at Culture Apothecary. Also, don't forget, try MASA Chips. I do not just say this. I've been a fan for years now. They are the best chips you will ever try. MASAchips.com. You'll get 20% off with my discount code RealAlexClark on that first purchase. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Culture Apothecary.